Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Monday Afternoon Roundtable. My name's Jason Munday, and my big brother here,
Tim Munday.
Again, thanks for joining us. This is going to be our year-end episode for the year 2022. We've had a busy year, a good year, very productive year. The major news of the year, there's two things that we did major. Three things I would say. First of all, you getting your PI license in your company.
I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I retired from law enforcement January, so once that happened, the process began. So it's a 3-month deal.
Yeah.
So after that,
yeah, you got your business license. Tim's business is 10-Star Investigative Services. And that leads us to our next big thing that we did this year. We combined resources. We got 10-Star Investigative Services. We've got Spartan Secure Solutions, which is the company I own, and then Blue Line Advantage that our other brother David owns. And what we did, we're still three separate companies, but we share resources, and it lowers the cost of operating a little bit.
correct. David's office was in Hickory. Your office was in Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an office, just getting started, so that was a cheaper way of doing things.
I basically got a nicer office with more stuff and larger for less rent.
Correct.
So it worked out well, and we're located at 216 East Main Street in Lincoln, North Carolina. Lincoln's a pretty good location in that it's close to. We're in Lincoln County, so we're close to Catawba County, Caldwell County, Gaston County, Cleveland County, Burke, Iredell, Mecklenburg. We're pretty close, and even South Carolina. So we're not far from anywhere. So it's a pretty good central location, and that brings us to our new office. And later in this, we're going to do a video walking around.
Showing our office a little bit.
Yeah.
We hope it comes out good. We don't know yet. But.
Yeah, that's the plan anyway. So it would be imperative that we know a lot of you listen to this on your podcast channels or whatever way you listen to podcasts. But it'd be good if you could watch this on our YouTube channel, which is Monday Afternoon Roundtable. And don't forget, spelling is Munday.
The correct way.
Yeah. So we've had a good time getting together and all that. It's been a learning process, and we've all learned from each other, and which has also helped us out. We've got a lot of diverse and different types of cases. One of the major cases that we got this year was yours. You want to talk about that?
We did an executive protection case, and it's still going on, and we're over 600 man hours, which is a lot, and everything worked out real well. I used I subcontracted 2 companies out and used all of us, every single one of us. But it was a big case, good learning experience.
I have to say that's probably the biggest case that we had this year from all 3 companies. Correct. And it happened to be your first case. So that was, man, if you can keep that up, we'll all be doing good.
I wished.
Yeah. The cases that we have, we take in everything. We do criminal defense cases, which we handle quite a bit of those, and those could be either court-appointed or retained. We've worked we've worked handful of murders this year, arsons, sexual assaults, any major felony cases.
Correct.
And what do you think about that, in that we used to be on one side of the team and now we're on the other?
We're still on the side of justice.
That's right. Both sides are always on the side of justice and the truth. So we're still doing the same job. We're just looking at it more of a defensive way than more of an offensive way. I guess it'd be like a wide receiver switching to safety.
Correct.
Something like that. Yeah. And it's been an eye-opening experience because you see things on a different perspective. Now, some of the defense cases we got, the defendant may be guilty or they may be innocent. But regardless, we still have to do the best that we can for
Correct.
that client.
And last week we had Joel Harbison, and that was one of my questions was, if we open a case and we did find out he's guilty, that defense attorney wants to know that. He wants to know why we think that and all the evidence we have that makes us lean toward that way. And that gives them a different perspective on how to handle the case, how to pick the jury, how to handle it. And
The legal strategy.
correct. So,
And that's all, it's providing the best defense available. Regardless of guilt or innocent, every citizen has the right to a strong defense.
correct.
And that just, all that does is strengthen the judicial system. And when I was a police officer, and I'm sure you did the same thing, and David also, every time I went to a criminal trial in Superior Court, I used it as a learning experience because no case is perfect. And
That's right.
you realize where you may have made a mistake where you need to improve at in the next case.
Oh, and it's brought up when you do make a mistake, they will let you know.
Oh yeah, and you feel like you're put on the spot, and you are. That's you. And it's nothing personal.
And it might not be a meaningful mistake. It might be something you did not do or forgot to do, and they bring it up. Why did you forget to do? Why? Some very minute, just small thing that you normally do in your steps, and you miss one of those things. Why?
Yeah.
They want to know that.
And we were talking about a specific case off camera earlier today, and we were discussing how probable cause and beyond a reasonable doubt are two different thresholds. You got to have probable cause to make the arrest, but you got to have beyond reasonable doubt to convict.
Correct.
And sometimes, law enforcement gets caught in a kind of a damned if they do, damned if they don't. And we realize that from being there, where you need to make the arrest because there's probable cause, but at the same time, do you have enough to convict? And we always, and I remember our dad told me this, and I'm sure he told you this, try to get cases that you're going to win in court. Don't arrest anybody, unless you can convict them.
That's what I've always said is, don't be pressured. Don't let a county commissioner, a city commissioner, a state board pressure you into doing something fast.
Yeah.
The poor soul's deceased, so now time is on your side. Take the time, do the case right and due diligence.
Yeah. And that's what we get the benefit of working for the defense now, that we get to see what the state or law enforcement has already done.
Correct.
And then we look at it from a different point of view and basically look for any problems or any mistakes. And it's different, but it's still the same kind of thing.
Yes.
We enjoy the criminal cases. Again, it's still doing the same thing, but it's on a little bit different point of view. We also handle and have done several civil cases. We do a ton of these. We do a lot of domestic or infidelity cases. This would be where a spouse or a boyfriend-girlfriend situation, one is cheating on the other or suspected thereof. Had cases this year where we actually catch the person in the act, and we've had cases this year where we've done everything we can and
not find anything.
Not come up with anything, and that's not unusual, but it gives the person peace of mind.
Correct. I know David had a case August, September. We sat down with the attorney, and the client was there, and she was 100% that he was not running around having an affair, doing bad things. She was against all this. She agreed to let us open the case, and within 2 weeks had enough evidence to close the case. So sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and again, it's we have the same goal of finding out the truth. It's not we're not going to say, oh, well, I'm sure this person's cheating.
Correct.
We want to provide the client with the evidence regardless of which way it shows. Like I said, either give the client a peace of mind to move on or do what they need to do, or give them a peace of mind of saying, hey, we might be having problems, but they're not cheating on me.
Correct.
In your opinion, do you think these cases are harder than the criminal cases?
Yes.
I do too.
By far.
Yeah, they are.
Especially if the husband or wife thinks they're being followed, they can make it hard.
Oh, yeah.
They can make it. I know one night we were in a pretty good sized city in North Carolina, and it was like following a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. It took me back to the 80s when we were doing that type of work, and I said, this feels just like we're following a cocaine deal.
Mm-hmm. A dynamic surveillance.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we didn't find anything that night, but they knew, or they felt real hard that they were being followed.
Yeah. And a lot of times, if somebody is doing something they shouldn't be doing, they're going to be overly paranoid anyway.
Correct.
And constantly checking.
Yeah.
And that's what makes these cases difficult. And it usually requires odd hours and long hours and a lot of downtime, boring time, and you've got to stay focused. And occasionally it could be dangerous every now and then if you get made by the target. You might get confronted or something like. I mean, it's not as dangerous as police work.
Correct.
By any means, but it's
By far, yeah.
but it could have that volatility that could happen. Like I said, I consider these much harder because with criminal cases, we're more experienced at that. We know, all right, we need to do A, B, C, D, and E. These are just, you never know what you're going to get. Same thing with custody cases. We've done a lot of those. And these can be very disheartening sometimes.
Yes. Especially when the child is with the other person in the court order of the what do I need to say, the custody. You can't have A, B, C while you have the child.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to find if they're doing A, B, or C when they have the child. Sometimes we find it and sometimes we don't.
Yep. Occasionally, we'll get a client. Most of our clients are, I'd say 95% of them are good, legitimate people that are,
yes,
that have been victimized or on the wrong side of something. But occasionally we'll get the client that's probably the worst of the two. And we try to avoid that if at all possible. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we don't realize that till we're halfway or three-quarters of the way through.
And that's a good, before we even open a case, we will sit around and do a roundtable discussion amongst everybody and bounce ideas off of each other. And sometimes we all might come to the conclusion that it's not a perfect case to even look at.
Yeah, and we've turned down cases. Just sometimes we turn them down because of that reason. Sometimes we turn them down because it's just going to be too damn difficult to do, and there's not going to be any profit from it.
Correct.
It's going to cost us more to conduct the investigation than it is to, So we have to be choosy on what we take. We also do background investigations. People would be surprised how many background investigations we do. Sometimes employers call us. Sometimes people getting ready to start a relationship will call us.
Mothers and fathers will call us.
Yep. Now that's happened too. They say, hey, I think Junior's a grown adult now, but I think he might have gotten some trouble in not telling us, and they're just curious of what's happening. We have to handle those with some kid gloves too, because any of this stuff that we find has to be confidential. We can talk about broad circumstances where we're not giving specifics, but we're not allowed to give any specifics on any case.
That's right.
And sometimes you can find a background, and some of the stuff could be damning that a lot of people didn't know, but the client pays for that. And then
yes, and people be surprised. Your healthcare workers, daycare workers, teachers,
mm-hmm.
Everybody has to have just about everybody now has to have a clean background before they go into certain fields of work.
Yep. And I get that, and they have to be responsible, and and have a level of integrity, because they may be dealing with people's private information or money or health or HIPAA laws, things like that. The EP, or executive protection, we talked a little bit about that. We're getting a little bit more into that. We've done that before, but a lot of people don't realize, and I'll let you elaborate on this, that in North Carolina, private investigators are the ones that are allowed to do executive protection through North Carolina Private Protective Services Board.
Yes. And just like my old case, I subbed out other companies, but you have to be licensed and certified to do that specific job.
Mm-hmm. And executive protection by law in North Carolina is any form of physical security in a non-uniformed role.
Yes.
And some assignments we may be armed and some we may be unarmed. If we're armed, about 99% of the time we're going to be concealed.
Yes.
Talk about how we try to blend in executive protection.
Well, you got to look at your surroundings. Where are you going to be at? What time of day? If the client wants to go to a event, we have to mix with that event. Mm-hmm. It might be a black tie. It might be a concert. It might be going to church, going to a wedding. Mm-hmm. So whatever they need, we can provide in it. And then according to that, we go.
And the client may want us to be right on them, or they may want us to be away from them and not be,
That's all your pre-work. You want to decide that before it happens.
Yeah, the client, again, may want us, everybody in the world, to know, hey, these people are here for me.
Yes.
Or they may just want us to blend in.
That's right.
And back to what you said, the pre-work or the due diligence, our homework before the assignment is always important on that. We also do some training. I do concealed carry classes here and firearms training. We are working on developing a training program for private eyes, getting some lesson plans available. We hope to have that up and running next year for in-service for private investigators. We've worked I think we've worked 2 or 3 suspicious death cases this year.
Yes.
Those are challenging.
Yes, I would say that. And it's hard once the law enforcement gives you discovery, and then that's limited. We all know that. You review it and base your findings on what you see. And it's very seldom that a PI service is going to overturn a law enforcement or a DA or what have you.
Mm-hmm. And again, the client may be looking for peace of mind. They want that extra sense to say, okay, yeah, I got these questions answered that I had that I didn't feel were answered, correctly or appropriately. And we look at it the same way we did working a suspicious death as law enforcement. It's either going to be murder or an accidental death or suicide or natural causes. We're trying to rule out all of them, and sometimes we can successfully do that, and sometimes we can't. But like you said, more times than not, what we find just reiterates what law enforcement has found. And we've had experiences where law enforcement has helped us and been very open about their case, and sometimes they're not. And that's just the nature of the game. Here's something that is fun. We've done a couple of these, is political opposition research cases. And had one client call and wanted a background investigation on himself because he's getting ready to run.
Correct. He did.
And I understand that because he wanted to know what is out there and what was not out there. And he was going to base whether he ran for office on doing so, on that. We've had another, and these are where the client may be looking to run or be dissatisfied with certain things. But we have to we have to really give a lot of ground rules on these cases because sometimes the client think we can do things that we can't.
That's right.
We have to stay within law.
We can't work miracles either.
Yeah, we can't turn somebody into a bad person when they're not. So sometimes these can be a little. We have to give them a heads up. And I had one case where a person called and I gave them the ground rules, and they were like, "Well, I'm just going somewhere else," and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mind losing a case like that if they're, you know, I just want to be upfront with them. You know, can't make somebody into something they're not.
That's right.
Here's one you've got a ton of experience with. You probably have more experience with this from law enforcement and in PI work than I do, and that's process service. You probably served thousands. In your career. And do you find that sometimes people will hide from process serving quicker than they would an arrest warrant when you were in law enforcement? Some people?
Some, yes. But it's easier to drive up in your car in your clothes and knock on a door and they'll answer it faster than they will for the uniformed officer.
Oh, yeah. When they see a uniformed officer in a marked patrol car pull up, they automatically know what's coming. Mm-hmm. When they see somebody like us, the way we're dressed, they're like, what's this person want? Their curiosity gets them. And,
yeah.
Some of these processes, you know, some of them can be difficult. You know, you have to be aware, you know, you always got to worry about dogs. You always got to worry about people overreacting, you know, or thinking you're there to do something that you're not. It could be a little hairy sometimes. Mm-hmm. I've been cussed out before. I mean, you know,
oh, yeah.
That's the only disadvantage of not being in uniform.
I've been cussed out more this year than I ever did serving any other civil paper.
All within 1 year.
Yeah.
Versus 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have that badge or uniform or the gun on, so you don't have any level of authority. And we've had to do drop serves before. You want to talk about how that works?
If they refuse service, then and you know who you're serving, and that is that person, lay it on the table and say, you've been served, and walk off. Mm-hmm. Lay it at their feet. You've been served, and walk off.
And that's what, and I tell them that. I say that, and I say, what you do with this is up to you. You can leave it sitting. You can call them. You can do whatever. And they'll try to follow you to your car, you know, cuss you out or whatever, and just go on.
The lady in Hickory that I served at an office, you had to be buzzed in and buzzed out. It had an electronic door. And she was giving me a good one.
Yeah.
And I hit the door, and it was locked. And I looked at the little receptionist. I said, do you want to hit the button, or do you want me to fix this door?
Yeah.
Because I'm leaving, you know. And she did. She let me out. And I was laughing a little bit about it. And the lady kept saying, you think this is funny? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I was laughing, you know.
Yeah, the situation was funny that she made it, not the fact that you were serving a paper on her or whatever. It's not that. She was making the situation funny. Most of the people we serve are, you know, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I knew this was coming, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, I know I don't want to kill the messenger. I know you're just doing your job or whatever. But you get some real general jerks sometimes, and that's in any business. But we do serve a lot. We'll get attorneys to call us, want us to do last-minute rush service, and that can be difficult sometimes because they may not have all the information that you need. Sometimes you go to the address and it doesn't exist, or they don't live there. Or
the one last week I had, the only address they found out he was in Airedale County Jail. Mm-hmm. So they put the jail's address down. I rushed it to Statesville and had him served, and we were done.
Yep. And law enforcement sometimes can be really, really helpful, and sometimes they can't. It just depends on the individual officer. It's not an agency type thing. And usually the more experienced officers are more helpful because they know what you're doing. You know, sometimes the younger ones are unaware of what we do.
Correct. They think we're working against them.
Yeah. And a lot of people in North Carolina don't know you don't have to be certified to serve a process. You don't have to be a private eye. You don't have to be law enforcement. All you have to be is 18 years old, a citizen of North Carolina, and not a party relevant to the case. But we tend to we've got certain tactics we use that keep us safe and keep everybody safe. And It's also more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
We won't go into detail or anything, but this is things that we can do to make life easier for us and everybody when we serve papers. Because even when we're in law enforcement, it's not a pleasant thing to get served with a paper. And these are not criminal. These
That's
aren't.
right,
These
yeah.
are not criminals most of the time. It's just general people for whatever reason. A lot of things we did this year that were really important. We added on some PI associates, and we had an episode earlier about that. You want to talk about your PIAs that you're adding on?
Yeah, bringing on Mark Sudreth. He's a retired Hickory firefighter. He goes before the board any minute now. Today was his day to go before the board. Everything checked out. He's an excellent guy. I've known him for a while. I think he'll be a good worker and a good access to our company.
Yeah, it seems real good. I've got Bradley and Brianna Rao. They've been with me a couple years now. They're getting closer to getting their full-fledged license. They're over halfway, and we're basically putting them on already as partners.
Correct. They're partners in the firm.
Yeah, so because they've done so much legwork and brought so much to the business, we went ahead and did that because that's a goal that's within sight. Got a couple more added on. Got added on Tori Richardson this year. Got Chris Warren. He was our first one I ever had. He's done some work for us. He's working really hard to get his hours in. And I also got another lady that I'm working to get on, and I don't want to mention her name because she's not on yet, but we'll get to her.
The other guy I've got, I don't want to mention his name because he's not went before the board yet, but all of his paperwork and legwork are complete. He's going to bring a lot of knowledge and expertise to the job.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to expanding, and all these PIAs bring something to the table that could help help the company. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we decided when we all went in together and to begin with, is because you add something that I can't add and David adds something that we can't add. It's just we help each other out, and our weaknesses we bring other strengths. What do you think as far as next year? What are you looking forward to?
Make more money.
That's right. That's what we're in the business for, right? Expanding the business, maybe marketing, and that's another thing that we've done this year. And I just forgot is the podcast.
This is one of our best market skills we've got so far.
Yeah, we've got a decent following. It's local right now. We want to expand it. Also, this studio we got, you really worked hard. This was kind of your baby.
Yeah, it was a long time coming, and it was a learning process. A lot of words were said in this room, but it worked out, I think. Everything's going good. Yeah,
we learned a lot, and thankfully we had your son Garrett, who knew more about this stuff than we did, to kind of keep us on the right path, because if without him, we'd have really been up the creek. But this studio, we're looking to maybe next year rent it out to people.
Yes.
If they want to do their podcast, no matter what they can utilize the equipment. They can make a PowerPoint background. We also got the green screen, which we hardly ever use, but it's very good for still photography.
Yes.
You can still use it for video, but it's not quite as it doesn't look quite as good, I don't think.
I agree.
But any kind of topic, anybody wants to do a podcast, we could help you out and hook you up with that. Another thing we've expanded, we've got a YouTube channel of the Monday Afternoon Roundtable, which we talked about. And the advantage of it is it's video. You get to see the video. And I think the second video or the second episode we did was on our dad, and it had a lot of pictures. So it was it's better to watch it than to hear it.
Yes. And we learned from that episode. I mean, you remember the screen had the 4 pictures. So we decided if we do this again, we'll put up one picture at a time where you can see it better, and it'll just be a better show.
And what we'd like to do with this podcast is eventually expand it a little bit where other PIs across the country can listen. We can talk about different cold cases, which we've done this year. We've talked local cold cases. We might even talk some cold cases that aren't generally in this area. I do know that we've got one local business here in Lincoln that wants to partner with us in going over all the local cold cases, and there's several.
That's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
I think with him, he approached you and asked you about it, and that could turn into a great show.
That's going to be one of our podcasts in January that we're lining up. We'll talk more about it, but he's a local businessman, been a businessman in downtown Lincoln for several years. Homegrown guy here, knows everybody, and we just want to. He's basically wanting to put a wall up in his business of, the information on all these cold cases and missing people, and then we discuss it online just to keep the cases alive. Law enforcement's doing a good job, but we just want to help out and just keeping that alive. Maybe expand that. We might even expand the conversation. We might delve a little bit into politics, but if but hold on. What we talked about with that is we would give every side an opportunity, equal time. Like we may have and it's not going to be a hit job type thing. We're going to give each side, time to say what they want to say, and probably in separate episodes. If we do that, we hadn't decided we're going to do, but if we did do that, it would be all right. We've got this person's going to represent conservatism, and this person will represent liberalism, and maybe have a moderate.
Yes.
Something to that effect, just to change things up a little bit every now and then. But we're not going to take any side whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Maybe even highlight some local businesses, bring in some other attorneys. I'd like to bring in some law enforcement, maybe somebody from the district attorney's office.
Yeah, it would be great. Bring in one of their investigators.
Yeah.
We could learn a lot.
Yeah, and we want this to be an open and working relationship with anybody that could be involved. You got anything else to?
This will wrap up the year for us. It's the 15th now, so we're going to take 2 weeks off for the holidays and let everybody enjoy a good Christmas. So we will not be on the next 2 weeks.
No, and we don't know exactly what we're going to do the first episode in January, but if we get an idea, we might drop a little, teaser or something on Facebook. So don't forget, like, share, subscribe our Facebook page, our YouTube page, our Spotify page, Munday, Munday, Afternoon Roundtable. Stay tuned. We're going to try our best to do a video tour of the office. If it's not on there, that means we were unsuccessful. But if it's on there, it means we were successful. And also, we're going to do a last call segment, which we've done several of them, haven't we?
I think the only time we didn't do a last call was the day we had firearms training.
Yeah.
And that was, that's a no-no. So we did not do a last call on that day, but we were going to the range after the podcast to do firearms qualifications.
And I'll tell you this, I hardly ever drink anymore. About the only time I do drink is when we do the last call. But it's given me a more appreciation for just bourbon and whiskey, just the different tastes and flavors. And
have an afternoon cocktail just to sit back and relax and think about your day. It is a good thing for me. I can do that. I can, people say, you're having a drink by yourself? Absolutely. Yeah, I'm thinking about what happened today, what went good, what went bad, and reflecting on the day's activities.
Yep. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in our last call. But thank you for joining us. Again, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you got any questions or comments, or if you disagree with something, please let us know. Send us a message, YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. Share our pages. Invite other people to like it. But thank you for joining. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Everybody.
And we'll see you in 2023.
And we're going to be right back for last call.
Sounds good.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
right, welcome back. We're getting ready to start the fun part of our podcast.
Relaxing part.
Yeah, is last call. Today we've got the Axe and the Oak whiskey. This whiskey is 92 proof or 46% alcohol.
Bourbon whiskey.
Bourbon whiskey. That's It's about almost $50 a fifth. It's distilled out of Colorado Springs in Colorado. If you do some research, it's one of the first distilleries out of Colorado. Started in 2013 by three buddies that liked to drink bourbon. And one of them had experience in distilling a little bit on the side. So he said, had the other two buddies agree that they were going to try this on the weekends as a little project, and it took off. Kind of neat backstory.
Hopefully it works for them.
Yeah.
We got a good brand here. We'll try it out. And
what's interesting is it's labeled. It's batch 132, and what bottle?
Bottle 319 of 1,000.
It's even got the distiller's name on it.
Yes, Ben Feller.
That's what it looks like. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's signed and all. It's good looking bottle, good presentation.
Yeah, nice look to it. The background on it, it's saying it's made with Rocky Mountain water and Colorado grains. Excuse me. The three specific lifelong friends were Jason Jackson, Casey Ross, and Eric Baldini. It's got a nice look to it. It's golden.
Yeah, watching the podcast last week, I realized after I watched it, I said, "Dadgum, I had my drink finished before everybody even started talking, and I'm sitting there with an empty cup." I said, "I need to slow down and relax and enjoy it a little bit more."
It's got a good smell.
But it's lighter color than we're used to.
Mm-hmm. The smell is it's not overwhelming.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Got a good first kick bite.
Yeah, strong bite to it. We'll see how that goes on the second and third. But yeah, the first one, it'll let you know it's there.
And it's did you say 92 proof?
Yep. Smooth though, but it's got it lets you know it's there.
And the bite's gone. So
Mm-hmm. And I typically am a sipper anyway. I mean, I don't.
Axe and the Oak started in 2013.
Pretty smart marketing with the axe because everybody's into this axe throwing stuff nowadays. You know,
That's
it's a catchy name.
hopefully it catches on and gets started, and the guys roll with it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Still has a good bite on the third.
I know
sip.
it does. It's stout, but not in a overwhelming way. It doesn't take
your
away
breath.
from it. Said on the nose, you're greeted with fresh leather, cinnamon dust, and honey glazed. Taste, you got rich with notes of creamy vanilla, caramel glaze, and deep oak.
Deep Oak, I agree.
I think that might be a lot where the color comes from too. Not quite as a bite to it on that third.
It's good.
Overall, I think it's pretty good. What do you think?
I'm going to go an 8.
I'm thinking about 7.5. This is very good if you want to make an impression. I think with some, if I had friends over, maybe. But I wouldn't probably. This wouldn't be my top choice. Just
Yes,
hanging out,
I'm with you on that.
But having people over, I think it would be a good choice. It's stout, strong, but not overwhelming. Good
Yes.
flavor.
Mhm.
Now, here's something we do need. Maybe Santa Claus and some elves out there will send us some
Samples.
samples. Samples would be great. Or
This come from our new associate, Mark.
even if let's say Santa and the elves might be a little bit broke and they can't afford to send us a sample, send us an idea. Maybe we'll go
That's
pick it
true.
up.
That's true.
If you see one or you say, hey,
Especially if you see one you really enjoy, send us a tip.
and we all, knock on wood, we haven't gotten a bad one yet.
No, we have not.
I don't think we've had a low score yet, and eventually we will get one, or a lowered. I wouldn't say lower. That doesn't mean it's. But
Well, the podcast you put us on last week, I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
But one of his top 5 worst bottles was one of our top 3.
Yeah, and we thought that was pretty good because it's just different strokes for different folks.
Coke and Pepsi and Ford and Chevrolet.
Yeah.
It's what do you like?
And I wish I wrote that podcast down because we want to promote his podcast. We're not trying to take it away from him, and he's not taking it away from us. He had a good podcast. He had several.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. He's got several.
He's got a good looking basement.
Oh yeah, he's probably got $20,000 worth of bourbon in there.
Anyhow, it's been a good year. I hope it continues. And
Oh yeah, looking forward to the new year. Been a great year. We're winding it up. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and
be sure to share and like.
that's right. Share,
That helps
like,
us a lot.
subscribe, comment, all you want. Just let everybody know.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.